Yo, what is up, guys? I wore my best black shirt for you today, so I hope you're as excited about this as I am. I love reminiscing. I don't know how many of you guys are the same. You're just like, I just like looking back. Are there any Time Hop users in the house? Like the app Time Hop, you know what I'm talking about? Anybody? I see a couple. You can raise your hand high. It's okay. I love looking back at what was happening 3 years ago. Rick, can you stand up? No, come on, you got it. Come here. You got to come here. This is incredible. No, you go up those stairs and then come up. You're going to join me. Sorry, guys, this is not part of the scheduled programming, but you've got to see this shirt. I need you guys to be ready to zoom in on this shirt. And it's even got it's even got the North Point logo on it. Look at this. Wow. Okay. That says North Point right there. But we love Jesus, but we cuss a little. I don't, but you probably do. Beth certainly does. I'm just kidding. I'm going to reminisce about that at some point, but I just love looking back on just the things that have happened in my life and just the way, the things that God allows us to experience. I love looking back, seeing like how my kids have grown, right? And, seeing them, a couple years ago, 2, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when they were first born and, what they looked like and what they were into and be like, oh, that was the overalls phase, or, oh, that was the dinosaurs phase, or that was the, whatever. That was like they couldn't like not throw up phase, or like, and then hear like the videos and like hearing their voices and just like how like sweet and innocent their voices were back then, and now they're just like grumpy and, like deep and, angsty and mad at you. And so not that you guys haven't experienced that, I hope. But I love looking back at all the highs and lows and buffaloes of life. Buffaloes are what we call random things in our house. We share a high, a low, and a buffalo at dinner. Looking back though, there's a lot of power in it. And there's just a lot of, there's just something in us. And actually, I only have 1 point today, and so we're just gonna go ahead and throw that up now. If Jess, I didn't do it, I was supposed to do it last service. I got 1 point today. I'm not as ambitious as all the other speakers. I got 1 point, and I hope that it sticks with you. We got it up. Remembrance stirs gratitude, and gratitude leads to worship. And so I think remembrance is really important. So I'm gonna take a look at some of that today, but I just love reminders of events and people and places, and I really enjoy sitting around the table with my siblings, and it's great when you can get like a group of people in a room and like hear everybody's perspective about the same event. And so my mom raised 6 kids, and so there's 6 of us, there's 6 perspectives of any given event, plus my mom, so which would be a 7th. And so we've got 7 perspectives on everything, right? And there's so much disagreement, and there's so much discrepancy about how things went down, right? And so often somebody will be like, oh yeah, remember when that thing broke? And everybody's like, well, it was Jared. And like, no, it was Heidi. And Heidi's like, no, it was Johnny. And Johnny's like, no, it was Marley. And Marley's like, no, it was Amanda. Amanda's like, no, it was Haley. And everybody's like, it certainly wasn't Haley. But everybody would kind of get a chance to defend themselves, and usually starts with see what had happened was, and we would just kind of go into our defense. And so just recently we were kind of going around, we were shooting the breeze and just talking about different things, and my mom found out for the first time that I sold a lot of weed in high school. And she wasn't thrilled about it, but she also wasn't surprised by that fact. Like her son that like wrote a persuasive essay in high school about like why, cannabis should be legalized. And so if you just walk into a storefront and buy Maui Wowie today, like that, you're welcome. Like I helped get that process going. But I left that behind 21 years ago. I haven't messed with that stuff for 21 years, but definitely used to be a big part of my life. And my mom just found out about that portion of it, and it was just us sitting around the table and everybody just kind of sharing stories and different things, and that just happened to come up. And so this year has been an interesting one. We started out, it was I think it was January 7th. that I went to bed knowing that there were wildfires in the LA area, and then I woke up to like news that like my childhood home and neighborhood was kind of under threat, and then within a couple of hours that the whole neighborhood would just be gone, and so that has really like created and stirred in me like just an attitude of reflection and remembrance this year. And so I've been to LA more times this year than I had really in the previous decade combined, and you have just had a chance to go back to the places that have the places, the people, the different things that have shaped me, over the years, especially my early years, and even like last month, going to Arizona, going to the small town in southern Arizona, right on the border where my great grandmother raised her 14 kids, and all her kids, and then their kids, and then my generation, and all the time that we would spend there, and this tiny dusty desert town that was only on the map just because of copper smelting back in the day, and that's not there anymore. So it's just a very unique environment, but it's home. It's like where we're from. It's our roots. And so to take my kids there and sit around the table where literally hundreds of people, if you include the kids and then their grandkids and then the great-grandkids and then great-great-grandkids, we're talking about hundreds of people had gathered around this table at any given time. And so for my kids to sit there and have a meal with me and my mom and one of my uncles, and that was really special and unique. But it's that stirring remembrance in me of like the things that have happened along the journey. And I think that even things that happen, before we start following Jesus, we can even look back and see like, man, I just saw God. I can see God moving the pieces, right? I can see God protecting me. I can see God providing for me. I can see God orchestrating things in a way that was ultimately, his design. And so there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in reflection. And so, where we are reading today, the people of Israel have been wandering for years. Say they've been journeying in the wilderness, and some of them have experienced, they left, they were part of the Exodus. They left Egypt. So some of them remember what the stability was like. And even though it was not a great existence, they remember the stability of place, right? But some of them, a lot of them, had been born on the journey. And so they only knew a life of wandering. And so they get to a place where Joshua is telling the people like, hey, it's here. We are on the precipice of this. We will very soon be in the promised land. In Joshua 3:5, he tells them this. He says, Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. And when he says consecrate yourselves, what he's saying is get your heart ready. Because he didn't say consecrate yourselves so that God will do amazing things. It's not an if-then statement. It's not an if you consecrate yourself, if you get your heart right, if you perform well, if you behave right, then God will do something amazing. He's saying God's going to do something amazing, so have your heart in the right place. And why? But why? Why does he need that? He's wanting them to experience fully what God is doing. Because if your heart's not truly there and truly in it, you really can't experience fully the work of God that is happening. And so he's not, it's like Christmas is a good example. We're right on the heels of Christmas, right? That like I am sure I'm not alone in this. And I hope you've been better than I have. But sometimes you lay down Christmas night and you're like, man, I missed it. Like I didn't fully engage and embrace the season of Christmas in like the faith way, right? You probably attended all the parties. You probably did all the shopping. You probably engaged in all the events. You probably watched all the Christmas movies, but you didn't fully engage in the Advent season, the preparation of Christ's coming, right? And so, and that doesn't make you bad. It makes you very, very human. It makes you like, that's very typical and normal for our day and age. But when to truly experience like the what would be called the liturgical calendar to truly experience. It's like preparing your heart, getting it ready for Jesus coming and what that means for us. And so Joshua is saying to them, like, prepare your hearts because God is going to do something incredible. And so Joshua 3:14-17 says this. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during the harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan. While the water flowing down to the Sea of Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. Now, our area is pretty familiar with flooding. Like we have, this is, Missouri is a place, there's lots of rivers, right? There's lots of creeks, lots of streams. And so we know what it's like to see those bodies of water rise. And I actually really enjoy that. Like, and it's not like I'm like really into destruction, but like, I just really like seeing like how the water moves and like just how like God has designed the landscape to drain an area. Like it is remarkable to me. And I really enjoy watching it, but I've never stood at a flood stage river and been like, I think I can get across this thing. Like it just hasn't happened, right? Because like I've got a respect for it, right? I'm just like, man, like this natural feature is way stronger, way more powerful than me. Now, I have gotten in a canoe at that stage, and that's like not incredibly intelligent either, but it's not as dangerous as just walk into. I've got like I hope you have one of these, but I've got like one of those like down for whatever friends that's just like, man, like whatever you say, bro, like I'm with you. Like I got your back. I'm going with you, whether you like it or not. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I hope you have that. And if you don't, I hope you are that for somebody, right? But I've got a friend, and it's like, be like, hey, let's get 20 miles in. And he's like, what? Okay, I'll meet you there. All right. Or like, hey, it's 10 below. We don't get very many opportunities to run in sub-zero temperatures. Like, meet you at the corner. He's like, all right, give me 15 minutes, I'll be there, But that kind of stuff. So I talked him into doing an adventure race with me, and which an adventure race is basically a triathlon for people who suck at swimming. And so what you do, instead of swimming in the water, you get in like a canoe or a kayak or a paddleboard or something like that. And so we decided to do this adventure race, and we had to train all disciplines in one day. Or we didn't have to, but we thought it would be wise to. We wanted to know what it would be like to do everything all sequentially in the same sequence that we would do the race in. So we drop a canoe off just south of like, what's it called? Beth, it's the one just north of that property. Shelvin Rock, my man, yes. So we drop off just south of Shelvin Rock. And so we drop our canoe off there, and then we go to Two Rivers, where we're going to bike from there to the canoe, and then we're going to canoe back to Two Rivers. We're going to land there, and then we're going to run, right? And so then we got this whole thing planned out. So we drop the canoe off, and then we get back, and we drive to Two Rivers, and realize that we did not leave the paddles and the life vests with the canoe. So now we have to bike with life vests on. And you've not ever felt an embarrassment like riding a bike with a life vest on. I can assure you of that. And so we're pedaling. We pedal out of Two Rivers, then up the hill, and up through River Fork Ranch area and up north on M Highway. And there we are. And not only do we look ridiculous with life vests on, but we also have paddles horizontal across our back, right? And Nixa's not really super bike friendly town, and it's especially out there, and there's not a lot of room on the road, and so it's only somebody's mirror can easily catch your paddle, and it's just not safe. It's not like Beth had no idea that this even ever happened. But that's like not, but that's not the only like unsafe thing we did that day. Because then we get to the canoe and like it had been raining a lot. And it was actually still raining. It was raining while we were doing this whole journey. And so we get to the canoe and we're like, dang, like we didn't really consider like how high the water has gotten. And so the water was like, it was moving fast. It was high and fast. And so we jumped, and both of us were like waiting for the other to back out, but that just never happened, right? And that's just like a recipe for like, for things to go poorly. Fortunately, like, God has a hand on us, and we jump in the canoe, and we're just like, I mean, it was a wild ride, and even like, when you get to the bridges, when the water gets like really high, and like you're just like, there's not a whole lot of clearance there, so you're just like, like kind of like put your limbo skills to work, and so we eventually get there, and all that to say, a flood stage river is not something that the people of Israel, not having any modern technology, they would not have been like excited to go across. They would have surely thought, Joshua, you are kind of out of your mind to suggest that we cross this river. But right away, but as soon as their feet hit the water starts to pile up, which would have been miraculous to see. And so the carriers of the Ark of the Covenant get to the middle of the river, and they stand there, and they wait while everybody else passes. And we're talking about tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. That's disputed, right? Like the Bible numbers would suggest 1 to 2 million, but archaeologists suggest, maybe like south of 100,000, whatever it was. It's a lot of people that are crossing through on dry ground. Miraculous. And then what happens is that so truly Joshua wasn't lying when he said God is going to do amazing things tomorrow, and he did. And so, right, he's like, great, I told you, right? I hope your hearts were right, and I hope you like didn't like cross the river and be like, all right, it's all right, I guess, Like, but back there was like, we were comfortable. We had our place. Like, we had our spot. Like, my tent was set up, and I knew where I was going to crash everything. Now I got to find a new spot. Now I have to find a new location for my goats to graze. Or now I've got to, my kids got to find a new place to play. Or like, man, like now, like, I mean, Moses' deal was kind of cooler than yours, Joshua, right? Like, so that kind of attitude, like that, like just ungrateful heart. And so that's what Joshua is trying to get at. Like, hey, like if you don't have your heart ready, you're going to miss the miracle. Your posture is not going to be in a way that's ready to receive it. Your posture is going to be in a way that's kind of critical of the miracle that just happened. And like, I don't know, like I'm sure you're better than I, but like I've been in a place where my heart wasn't completely right. And so like the provision in front of me is something that I'm like critical of. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's cool, I guess. But like God's like, that's my provision. Like, how are you going to turn your nose up at that? And so Joshua was telling them, like, get your hearts ready to receive this. Now, and then God asked them to do this. He says, Joshua 4, the next chapter, when the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe. And he said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God, into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. God is saying this is an event worth remembering. Don't move on from it too quickly. Take a moment to memorialize it. So take a moment to go, so from the water's edge, to leave the water's edge, go back to the middle, grab the stone, and instead put them over your shoulder. So that suggests they're not small stones, right? That's how you carry something that's heavy and awkward. So put them over your shoulder and bring them back and pile them up. And why pile them up? Because generations later, somebody's going to ask, why is that pile of rocks there? And you'll say, like, man, let me tell you about a time. See, what had happened was God showed up. We stepped into the river, and the water started piling up. The water backs up, and we were able to all of us, right? And the tens, 1,000, hundreds of thousands of us were able to cross on dry ground. That was the miracle, and it was amazing. You should have been there, right? Like so God is telling them to memorialize it. God is saying, remember this, and not for the sake of remembering, and not for the sake of a pile of rocks, but that remembering would stir up gratitude, and that gratitude would lead to worship. I'm a bit of a pack rat. It's hard for me to throw things away. Beth is the opposite. She's just like, get it out of my house. Like, this is clutter. I don't need it. I don't want it. Especially when it's my stuff, right? She's just like, it's clutter. I don't need it. I don't want it, right? Like, there's been times where like in the trash bin, I'm like, why is this in the dumpster, right? Like there's like a leather jacket from when I was a child, right? She just like threw it away, and I pull it out, and then it's like it was in the trunk of my car for years because like I didn't want to bring it back in the house because I knew she would throw it away again, right? This like giant like Mickey Mouse, she threw it away, just tossed it, and I'm like, well, that can't go there, so back in the trunk of my car, right? So like the trunk of my different seasons, the trunk of my car looks like a flea market of just like all my old stuff that Beth has tried to throw away that I pull it out, but I can't take it back in because then the cycle just repeat, right? And so I've kind of got, I don't know, see you guys looking her way, but the reality is I just have a lot of stuff like that. I have a hard time getting, because I do enjoy remembering. I have a big box of things. I just call it my good things box. Like I just have like good things in there, and there are no value to anybody but me. Like it's just like to anybody else it's just garbage. Anybody else when I go, my kids are gonna take this box and they're not even gonna put it in the estate sale. They're just gonna throw it in the trash, right? Because there's no value to anybody. But I find great value in it because like I'm just like, man, like I'll look at a card and I'm like, oh man, like that person, like we were tight. I wonder what's happening with them now. Like, oh that, yeah, I remember that. Like I'll find like a ticket stub, right? Just yesterday I found a ticket stub to 1999 Women's World Cup championship at the Rose Bowl, right? The U.S. versus China shootout, penalty kicks. Brandi Chastain scores, rips her shirt off, the whole thing. Like it was crazy. Like I was there, and so I've got that ticket stub, and I was just like, man, like what a cool memory. One of the coolest parts, well, not cool, but funniest parts is like I was a huge J-Lo fan at the time. Every middle school boy was. But like I'm at the concession stand during that, and I'm remembering this, right? As I'm looking at this ticket stub, I'm at the concession stand getting a hot dog, and I'm like, this doesn't sound like it's coming. Like, oh my gosh, J-Lo is performing, and I'm over here getting a hot dog, and so like I totally missed it. I totally missed the performance because I was hungry. But anyway, so that ticket stub just that little thing of paper, right, provides me all these memories about that time that I had with my dad and my sister and going to that game and that match and just like how magical it was. And it's an iconic moment in U.S. sports history. And there's other things. There's notes from people. There's pictures. There's yearbooks. There's T-shirts. There's trinkets. There's it's like like the Little Mermaid. Who's it's and what's it's galore. Like that's kind of like the thing, right? It's just all sorts of stuff. And again, no value to anybody but me. And so, I just but I think but God, the thing about it is God has wired us for remembrance. Like he truly has. But the key to it though, is that we would allow that remembrance to stir gratitude in us, right? Because sometimes we want to we don't want to be grateful. We want to be maybe bitter or negative and I'm not saying that there's not negative memories. Like I know, like I have plenty of those too. I have plenty of memories where I'm just like where a certain thing, like a TV show or a song or like I was telling a friend just the other day, I was just like, man, like I can't watching the movie Hook is really hard for me because one of the worst fights that I've ever witnessed in my life was me and my sister were just trying to watch Hook, and then my dad and grandfather are just going at it, right? And I was just I'm little kid, I'm scared, and I'm trying to act like I'm watching the movie, but the whole time I'm really scared about what's happening over here. It's hard to watch, right? So I'm not saying like certainly there are difficult things that we try to, we try to maybe never not necessarily like silence them, but like neutralize them, right? Where they don't hold as much, negative feelings, emotions, pain for us. But God has wired us in a way that remembers, and what we do with that is really, really important. And so in our lives, like we've just had so many. Beth and we got married young, which is so great, but it created so many challenges for us. When you get married young, like you're just like young, dumb, and broke, right? Like that's just what it's just hard. It's just a recipe for difficulty, right? And then like when you're pursuing I was studying to be a teacher and ministry and that kind of stuff. So it's just like there's all these factors. It's just like we just really needed God to show up for us a lot. And but we look back and we're just like, man, like every step of the journey, we've just seen God show up. And so there are just things that we just, we've got, and they're not physical. It's not like physical stones, right? It's not like every time we move, we're taking a big pile of stones, but there are things that we keep around that remind us of days gone by where God showed up for us and did certain things, right? There's like the times that we were in college and we were really determined to pay for Beth's school as we went. We were like, okay, it's going to be impossible for us to pay for both as we go, but we can do one. And so like we were really committed, no loans on Beth's school. And so, man, we were grinding. We were doing all that we could. And, just like having like our back against the wall and being like, hey, this much is due by this day. And then like having somebody step up and be like, hey, I want to help you guys out in this season. Things like that. Those stories were cool. Or like we had like no food in the house one time. We had like no food in the house. We were down to one car. One of the cars that we did have was just abandoned in the Lowe's parking lot. We just left it. We were just like, this thing not running anymore. And so, but I was like, we got to sell this thing, man. Like we got to sell this thing to survive, really. And so like that, I can't remember what year it was, but that Toyota Camry, like eventually like, it sold at like the perfect time. Like where it's just like, man, like God like needed to show up. We just needed a move of God. That car sold, and then we went to the grocery store right after, like with that money, And I don't know if you've had moments like that where it's just like, man, like my back was just so against the wall, right? And so it's like anytime I drive through that Lowe's parking lot, I'm like, and it's not rarely. I mean, it's the Ozark Lowe's, right? But every time I drive through that parking lot, I'm like, yeah, I remember selling that car, right? I remember that guy being like, hey, that's an aftermarket sunroof. That's interesting. I'm like, I had no idea. I don't know enough about cars to know. But yeah, it is. Sure. Does that make it worth more to you? But there's that. There's like driving by. Anytime I drive by Cox Hospital or we'll go into Cox Hospital, I go fairly frequently. I do hospital visits, but when our youngest was born, like, man, like that was a crazy situation. We had all of a sudden, like in the midst of the process, like the doctor got really serious, and he just turned to the nurse. He says, "Pull the cord," right? And so she pulls this cord out of the wall, and all this staff rushes in, and they like one of the nurses jumps on the gurney bed, whatever you call it, and they wheel him out of there, and then I'm just standing alone in a room, like in the labor and delivery room, and I'm like, I had no idea what had just happened. I had no idea where they went. I didn't know who the problem was with. I didn't know if the problem was with Beth, or the problem was with Gabe, or with both, right? I was terrified. Finally, somebody comes back telling me what's going on, and then they disappear again, right? And then like those 4 minutes, like it was only 4 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. And they ended up being great. And like, I look back at it and I'm like, man, like God really protected them, because it could have gone very poorly. It could have been telling a completely different story right now, but God really showed up. And, but like, that's one of my memorials, right? When I go by Cox, I'm like, man, like God showed up. God really protected. Or Jude, our oldest, like we were told when he was really young, he's got a really interesting, I don't know if you call it like disorder, deformity, whatever, but like he's got a really unique thing about his right arm that like surface level, you're just like, let's deal with a bull. but the doctor said something to us that made us like, whoa. She's like, hey, this condition rarely exists in isolation. It's pretty common for like a lot of other things to go along with it. So just be on the lookout for that as he gets older. And then she goes, but don't Google it. It'll just freak you out. Like, well, what else am I gonna do, right? Like, and so of course we Googled it, or we asked Jeeves. I don't know, whatever. It's like so we kind of we start to learn more about like what the potential other things. We're like, wow, this could be quite the journey. But like, test after test and doctor and specialist after specialist, like all these people, and like it is, although rare, it is existing in isolation, which is really, and so like I think about that, and so it's just like, okay, it's again another like pile that up on the memorial, like, hey, like this is another time, right, that God showed up for us, for our family. This one is unique and interesting, and I hope it can be helpful to you, but I think it illustrates it really well. There was a time that, Beth and I, it was an anniversary trip, and we went to the mountains in Colorado. We were living out that way at the time, and most people for an anniversary trip, they probably do like a cabin, nice and cozy, right, something with a view, and like, but we decided to camp and climb mountains, and again, going back to like, we were broke, and so it wasn't necessarily by choice, it's just what the budget allowed. And so we decided to do the camping thing, and so we wake up pre-dawn. If you're gonna summit a 14er, so anything above 14,000 feet, and so we were like, all right, we're gonna summit these 2 14ers in one day. So we get up pre-dawn, we get on the way, and like within a couple hours, we're at the first summit. We're at the top of Mount Bierstadt. From the top of Mount Bierstadt, you can see across what's called the Sawtooth Traverse, or Sawtooth Ridge, and to Mount Evans. And Mount Evans is another 14er, and then the Sawtooth Traverse also has another point that's a 14er as well. And so, so we get to the top of Bierstadt, and so we're resting, we're fueling, we're hydrating, right? Like it's the top of Bierstadt, so like everybody's drinking a beer, right? And so you're kind of judging who's drinking what, You're just like, man, like Miller Lite's not going to get you over to Evans, like, and so so we're like sizing up the situation. We're like, it doesn't look that hard from here. That is very doable. We can probably knock that out in like, a couple hours, 2 hours tops. We're pretty good. We're young. We're in shape, right? Like we felt really good about it. And so we're like, all right, let's do it. So we kind of throw our packs back on. Beth slams her beer, and then we get on. I'm just kidding. Like, if you know Beth, you know how ridiculous it is to say that. Like it's, so she's more of a tequila gal, but also ridiculous. But so we get on our way, and so we're going through this Sawtooth Ridge section, and like you're just like, it doesn't look very sawtoothy, but man, it earns the name. It is very harrowing. It is dangerous, and we got to a point where we really had no idea where we were. We were very lost. We didn't know up from down, left from right. Like we were very lost. We had lost our way, and we're starting to think like, how are we going to get off this mountain? We were kind of at like this point of no return kind of scenario, where it's like we have to, like we can't go back, like we got to go forward, but like which way is which? And so we kind of park it on this boulder, and we're just sitting there probably eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and we're just kind of collecting ourselves, and all of a sudden this old man shows up. And I just remember a couple things about him. He was tall, he was lanky, and he had one of those those nose guards that you clip to your glasses to keep your nose from sunburning, right? Like those are the 3 things I remember. For whatever reason, that stood out to me. But he just comes and he's just sauntering along. And he didn't even seem prepared. Like he had no backpack on. Like it was almost as if he like lived up there, which is not possible. So like I knew that wasn't the case, but he just kind of, and he just looks at us, looks that way, where I'll look towards you guys. He looks at us and he goes, I've been following you guys. I like the path that you've chosen. I was like, my man, we have not chosen this path. We have wandered. This is all accidental. And so, but he keeps on going. It was just, there was purpose with his steps. Like there were like his steps were on purpose. He seemed to know where he was going. And so we throw on our packs and we follow him. He goes through this opening in the rocks. And so he goes through there, And then we go through there and we get on the other side and we knew exactly where we were. We were exactly where we needed to be, and we knew what our next steps were. But he was nowhere to be found. He was like, and he should have been there. There was nowhere for him to go. There was no, he wasn't moving fast enough to have gotten on to the next thing. And so we just take one of those memorial rocks and we just put it there on the monument and say, that was a time that God showed up. There's no other way to explain it, but that God sent this person, being, angel, whatever, I don't know, the man with the nose guard, to help us, right? And there's kind of, it's not uncommon in mountaineering it's called third man syndrome, right? Where it's somebody just shows up and offers advice, guidance, but he was very real. You saw him, right? Yeah, he was very real. You heard him, right? And yeah, but it's that was a time that God showed up. And so it's all right, am I here to give mountaineering advice? No. I'm here to say God sees you. When you're parked on a boulder, right? And you don't know which way to go. You're tired, you're hungry, you're thirsty. You don't know up from down, left from right. You don't know how you're going to get off the mountain. God will show up. God sees you. He sees you right where you're at. And but sometimes you got to look back. You got to be hey, I remember back when he showed up in this situation, right? Reminds you that he's good today, right? Because he was good back then, he's good today, he'll be good in the future, right? So so these things all work together, right? Remembrance stirs gratitude, and gratitude leads to worship. And worship, and I don't mean worship in a way like this, right? I'm not talking about this stuff. I'm not talking about the stage and the lights and the sound and the fog. It's cool. I dig it, right? I'm into it, but that's not the whole of worship. Worship is how we live our lives. Worship is what we do in response to God's goodness. Worship is how we take what he's done for us and then show gratitude for it and then put it into practice, right? Take his goodness, that we would be a conduit, right? That's really if you want to define worship, it's be a conduit. As lame as that is, right? It's just like a downspout, right? What? That's all you are. You're receiving God's goodness and you're pointing it out to others, right? And so that's worship. That we would have a grateful heart, that we would aim to please God, that we would be into his words and his ways, and that we would follow his word. It's one thing to be into it, to read it, but it's a whole other thing to apply it. Right? That we would take his words and his ways and we would put it into practice, that we would show it to others, that we would offer his goodness, his grace, his forgiveness, right? That we wouldn't be so quick to be oh, they wronged me. No, I'm done. Cut off. That we'd be no, there's forgiveness for this situation. I can show love. I can offer somebody more than they have earned or deserve, right? That we would show generosity. That we wouldn't be so me and mine focused and what's under my roof, right, is my domain, and I'll pay for everything in that jurisdiction. But to be open-handed and you would just offer to others when God prompts you to offer to others. Or sometimes that you would just be hey, I don't even need to consult God on this. I just know that it's in God's heart to do it, so I'm just going to offer it, right? There's sometimes some scenarios where you say I have it, you need it, here you go, right? And so that's how we worship. We worship by offering his goodness through us to others. And so grateful heart, aim to please him, tell others about his goodness. Remembrance stirs gratitude. Gratitude leads to worship. Let's pray. Lord, we are thankful for your love and for your goodness and how you show up for us. Help us to be people that receive your love, offer it to others. Help us to be people who remember the times that you've showed up for us. Not in a glory days kind of way, where we are super nostalgic and stuck in the past, but in a way that stirs our hearts. Where we just, only thing we can come up with is gratitude. Say thank you. And from that thanks, we offer your goodness to others. Help us to be people that reflect your love in the communities around us, our families, our jobs, our neighborhoods. We truly are so incredibly fortunate to have your work in our lives. I just pray that we would be people that extend it to others. Amen.